to the WrestleHavoc Podcast on YouTube, where we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. We talk all that goes on in the realm of WWE and AEW every week. And now, here's your host, the one that will give you a reality check on pro wrestling, Flamin' Ricky DeReyes. This is the WrestleHavoc Podcast.
What's up, everybody? It is Flamin' Ricky DeReyes, right here on the WrestleHavoc Podcast, here to review AEW Dynamite from May 10th, 2023. A big week in the history of AEW. Not primarily regarding Dynamite, but regarding their television deals. Everybody is talking about it. The rumored $1 billion deal, which honestly does seem a little far-fetched, but man, if that is the case, man, AEW just made history right there. But we're not going to be talking about that $1 billion deal because we don't know it's official. We don't know if it's official yet, I should say. But we're going to find out this coming Wednesday at the upfronts, and also that announcement on Dynamite next week. But nonetheless, what are my thoughts on AEW Dynamite this week? I thought AEW Dynamite was actually a pretty good show this week. The past couple of weeks, AEW Dynamite, I don't want to say kind of fell off, but, I honestly felt like Dynamite was just not really, how do I put it into words? Just nothing really special happened on the show these past few weeks. And honestly, this week definitely changed all that, in my opinion. AEW is definitely riding high, of course, after selling a lot of tickets, roughly around like 60,000 tickets, I think it was, almost like 70,000 tickets, I believe, for the All-In show. Of course, the TV deal news, all that stuff going on, as well as what happened on the Dynamite show as well. Of course, we had Jon Moxley and Kenny Omega renewing their legendary rivalry, basically the rivalry that kind of started AEW. Their feud kicked off at the end of the first show at Double or Nothing in Las Vegas back in 2019, where Jon Moxley made his AEW debut and basically threw Kenny Omega off those poker chips. But they renewed their rivalry on this show this week inside of a steel cage, and that steel cage match did not disappoint. It was a great steel cage match, and that ending with Don Callis turning his back on Kenny Omega. We all suspected it. It's happening. Is this a case where Don Callis is joining the Blackpool Combat Club? We have absolutely no idea. Where does Konosuke Takeshita lie in all of this? We're going to have to wait and see, but a lot of crazy things happened at the end of that show, primarily Don Callis turning on Kenny Omega. But that was just basically the tip of the iceberg when it came to Kenny Omega and Jon Moxley. We also had Claudio Castagnoli versus Rey Fenix in a double Jeopardy match. Of course, whoever wins that match, basically, they challenge the other man's title. There's a lot of pros and cons to that. We had an FTR segment, and they will be officially challenging, or I should say challenging, they will be wrestling Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal for the tag team championships. We got Orange Cassidy versus Daniel Garcia for the international title. Christian Cage being a savage on the microphone as well. We had a Julia Hart versus Anna Jay street fight match. And we had the House of Black versus Best Friend and Bandido for the trios titles in an open house match as well. So we're going to be talking about all this and much more right here on the AEW Dynamite review. But before I get on with all this craziness, make sure to like and subscribe to the WrestleHavoc Podcast right here on YouTube, in which we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content. And as the freaking referee would say, ring, ring, ring that damn bell for more notifications. Also, the WrestleHavoc Podcast is also available on audio platforms. It is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, and Google Podcasts. So if you guys want to listen to the WrestleHavoc Podcast in audio format, it is available on all of those platforms. And we're gonna head straight into the Dynamite review. As I've stated, Dynamite this week definitely felt like an AEW Dynamite. It was a great show nonetheless. I mean, usually in most weeks, AEW Dynamite is always a great show. They always tend to hit a home run. But I will say, man, these past few weeks, honestly, they weren't really doing it for me when it came to Dynamite, honestly. They were not bad shows. It's just, it didn't really, just feel like Dynamite to me. But nonetheless, this week I thought was a pretty decent week for them. And honestly, it was a really good week and a really good episode in a while, in my opinion, of Dynamite. The show kicks off with the Ring of Honor World Champion, the member of the Blackpool Combat Club, Claudio Castagnoli, facing off against one half of the current Ring of Honor Tag Team Champions, Rey Fenix, in a double Jeopardy match. So basically the rules of this double Jeopardy match is basically whoever wins this match basically gets the challenge for the other man's championship. In this case, if Claudio wins, he challenges for the tag team titles, and if Rey Fenix wins, he challenges for the world championship. Honestly, there are pros and cons to this. Number one, why is Ring of Honor involved in this, considering the fact that, a lot of people did not like the Ring of Honor stuff, and, Ring of Honor has its own thing going on right now. Honestly, I don't mind it, to be quite honest with you. I really don't. It was a great match nonetheless, and it made total sense for Claudio Castagnoli to win anyway. It sucks that Rey Fenix lost, considering the fact that he's one half of the tag team champions, but nonetheless, this was still a pretty good match. So let's go through the match. Claudio pushes Rey Fenix. We get a takedown by Claudio. And Fenix has Claudio up. We get a right hand. Fenix escapes. Claudio picks up Fenix, but then Fenix escapes once again. We get a bunch of counters after counters by both men. After that, we get a tilt-a-whirl backbreaker by Claudio. We get a backbreaker once again by Claudio. At this point, Fenix is on the apron, and then we get a springboard Hurricane Rana by Rey Fenix after that. Claudio is on the outside. Fenix then goes for the suicide dive. After that, he goes for the second suicide dive on Claudio, but then when he tries to go for the third suicide dive, he gets caught by Claudio, and Claudio throws Fenix onto the barricade. After that, he picks up Rey Fenix, and then he walks up the steps and then throws him into the crowd. Fenix then goes for repeated shots to the back of Claudio, and then Fenix is on the barricade, and he literally walks the barricade and hits a Hurricane Rana, the first of many Hurricane Ranas on Claudio off the barricade. Then we get a thrust kick blocked by Claudio. After that, Fenix goes for the enziguri, and then Claudio drops Fenix down to the mat. After that, we get a cover and a near fall. But then Claudio picks up Fenix, and then Claudio goes to the second rope, and then Fenix escapes. After that, he goes to the top, and then Fenix goes for another Hurricane Rana off the top. But then we get a cover by Fenix and a near fall. Claudio then counters the Code Red attempt and hits a furious, and I mean a furious lariat. After that, we get a cover by Claudio and a near fall. Claudio on the outside picks up Fenix and throws him to the outside. Once we're back from commercial break, we get a running uppercut by Claudio. After that, Fenix is on the apron, but then we get a chop by Fenix. Then Rey Fenix ends up going to the top rope, but then Claudio comes in and hits a gut wrench off the top rope. After that, we get a cover and a near fall. We then get an overhand chop by Fenix, and then he goes for a second overhand chop. After that, Claudio fires back with an uppercut, but then both exchange shots. Fenix then misses the spinning heel kick, but then he hits a thrust kick on Claudio. Then we get a spinning kick off the second rope. Fenix then goes for the roll and cutter, and then we get a cover by Fenix and a near fall. At this point, Claudio's on the outside, but then Fenix goes for a beautiful moonsault on the outside. At this point, Fenix goes back into the ring. We then get a springboard by Fenix, but then falls into an uppercut by Claudio. After that, we get a cover and a near fall. Then Claudio tries to go for the Ricola bomb, but then Fenix counters into a Code Red. We then get a cover by Fenix and a near fall. Then Fenix goes for the thrust kick, and then we get an uppercut by Claudio, but then we get a spinning kick by Fenix. Claudio then misses the lariat, but then we get a second thrust kick by Fenix, and then we get a cover and a near fall. Fenix picks up Claudio, but then Claudio escapes. Claudio then picks up Fenix, but then he drops him down. We get a cover and a near fall. Claudio goes for repeated elbows on Fenix, and then he takes Fenix and then hits the Ricola bomb, and we get a cover. And Claudio Castagnoli beats Rey Fenix, and he now can challenge for the Ring of Honor Tag Team Championships. Overall thoughts on this match. This is a very good match to kick off Dynamite. I definitely enjoyed this match for what it was. Claudio is absolutely fantastic, as well as Rey Fenix. Now, what's interesting is that Claudio is going to be challenging for the Ring of Honor Tag Team Champions. The interesting thing is, who is going to be his partner? Honestly, my best bet is I would love for Bryan Danielson to team up with Claudio, or I don't even know what the rules are. I believe the rules is that he can give that title shot to any two members of the Blackpool Combat Club, or he can just pick one member of the Blackpool Combat Club and then he can, go after those championships. I don't know what that stance is, but if I were to pick any member to team up with Claudio for the ROH Tag Team titles, definitely be Bryan Danielson, in my opinion. You know, that'd be great. And you can definitely have a story there saying like, hey, man, we are the tag team champions. And look, we are holding the tag team titles that used to mean something. But, you know, nowadays they're just a flat out joke. But now we want to bring back honor to the Ring of Honor tag team championship. Shit like that. You know what I'm saying? You can definitely have a story like that, but we're going to have to wait and see what they do. Definitely, of course, the Blackpool Combat Club has their hands full because they're currently feuding with the Elite, and it's definitely leading to something big, especially after what happened in the end of this show with Don Callis turning on Kenny Omega, which led to Jon Moxley to beat Kenny Omega in the steel cage match. So we're going to have to wait and see what they do. But nonetheless, this is a great opening match to kick off Dynamite. After that, backstage, we see somebody walking. We see somebody walking. The camera pans to the floor all the way to the top. Who the hell is it? It's Miro. Yes, the Redeemer himself, the former TNT champion, has finally made his return to All Elite Wrestling ever since All Out. Everybody was literally asking, including myself, where the fuck was Miro? And then all these stories came out about Miro not liking a storyline that TK pitched him. All that stuff. We finally got Miro back. And in this backstage quote-unquote interview, because Renee was there as well, she sees Miro and she's like, welcome back to AEW. Miro has this pissed off look in his face, and he enters in Tony Khan's office, and the camera pans to the sign that says Tony Khan. So what is this leading to? We're going to be talking about that later on after we see Thunder Rosa as well, because she as well made her official return to All Elite Wrestling as well. Now, granted, she was, I believe, at the tapings these past few months as well, doing, I believe, Spanish commentary, but this Thunder Rosa officially made her official return as well. So we're going to be talking about that when we get to her as well. But very, 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 very interesting stuff. We then get the first of 4 video packages basically showcasing the 4 pillars, you know, with each individual wrestler kind of talking about, you know, the history that they all had. Great stuff overall. I know a lot of people are not really too keen on, you know, the 4 pillars at Double or Nothing, which if you're not really, you know, invested in it, I can't really blame you. I mean, I'm still excited for the match. I think the match is going to be absolutely fantastic, but let's be real here. You know, Sammy Guevara is not really at the level of a main eventer right now. Jungle Boy is definitely getting there. Really, if you really compare all the 4 pillars right now, MJF is right over here and everybody else is like right here. You could say Darby's close to MJF because Darby's like right there for MJF, but Jungle Boy still has to head there, and Sammy Guevara still has a long way up to go there as well. So, but nonetheless, I'm actually personally excited for this match. But MJF basically in this promo basically compares all the 4 pillars basically to the Beatles and all that stuff. After that, we get an FTR segment. Dax says he is worked up, and then Cash and himself owe an apology. And then they bring out Mark Briscoe, but what happens? Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal come out. Sanjay Dutt says that they had one job today, and they have to accept the challenge that they missed last week. Did you guys accept their challenge at Double or Nothing in Las Vegas? And then Dax asks the crowd, and then the crowd says no, and Dax says that he has an idea. He will accept their challenge if they admit that they are using Mark Briscoe to get to them. And then what happens? The Sussex County Chicken, Mark Briscoe, comes out. After that, he says, now you fellas need to relax. It's been apparent to him that they have a hard time controlling their emotions when they are in the same facility. In Las Vegas at Double or Nothing, there will be a tag team title match, and it will be official. FTR versus Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett for the AEW World Tag Team Championships. And he will be the special guest referee. And he gives them basically each a cup of alcohol. And what happens is the heels end up spitting in the face of FTR. After that, a brawl breaks loose. And what happens is that Dax is still blinded by, you know, the spit of the alcohol going in his face. And what happens is the heels, that being Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal, send Mark Briscoe, who's going to be the special guest referee in the match at Double or Nothing. They send Mark Briscoe to Dax Harwood, and Dax, by accident, pile drives the shit out of Mark Briscoe, not knowing that he accidentally pile drived Mark Briscoe. What are my thoughts on this segment? You guys know me. I like Jeff Jarrett. I like Jay Lethal, but I mean, out of all feuds that FTR are in for the AEW tag team titles, this is the best feud that you got for them. I mean, look, again, I like Jeff Jarrett. I like Jay Lethal, but I'm tired of this Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal shit. Honestly, at this point in the game, I'm just tired of that shit. And honestly, I want FTR to do something better because they're the current tag team champions. Now, we all know they're going to be doing something better, after Double or Nothing, because after Double or Nothing, shit's going to get real with Collision coming up and, the return of CM Punk. That shit's not official, but we all know it's happening. But again, FTR versus Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett. I mean, I'm not really that invested in it. Now, granted, Mark Briscoe being the special guest referee, it makes things a little more entertaining and fun because, let's be honest, we all love Mark Briscoe. I'm a big Mark Briscoe fan. Like, this guy is just so entertaining to listen to. But again, that's the best you got for FTR? I don't know, man. That's just my opinion. But hopefully, I mean, of course, they're going to retain those titles at Double or Nothing. But again, I mean, out of all people that FTR are feuding with, you have them feud with Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal, of all people. We get a backstage interview with Chris Jericho. Asks how you've been feeling. The best of him. That's why everybody is so happy that he got his, he got beat by Adam Cole from an unprovoked attack. Talks about how he created, that being Adam Cole, created an unsafe working environment. And he got legal counsel, and he got a court order. And if he's in the building, he is banned, and he is not allowed inside. Then what happens? Roderick Strong comes in, and he says Adam Cole is one of his best friends, and he isn't a coward. He, though, isn't banned in the building. And then he challenges Jericho to a Falls Count Anywhere match. And Jericho says he has a whole crew behind him, and be careful what you wish for. And then Roderick Strong says that he has a court order of his own, saying that the Jericho Appreciation Society are banned. So it looks like next week, which I believe it's already official, we're going to be getting Roderick Strong versus Chris Jericho, and Adam Cole is banned as well as the JAS. So this is going to be a pure one-on-one match, and it's going to be a Falls Count Anywhere match. I'm totally fine with that. I'm going to be honest, man. I'm definitely enjoying what they're doing with Adam Cole and Chris Jericho. I even though we all knew when they were first teasing this feud, I was excited. But at the same time, I felt like I had that doubt because I didn't want to be I didn't want to be, your kind of your typical JAS feud in which you have basically Adam Cole go after every member of the Jericho Appreciation Society. I mean, at that point, I'm going to be honest, man. I'm not really kind of as invested in the Jericho Appreciation Society than I was a couple of months ago. Really, after the Blackpool Combat Club feud, I honestly felt like the feud that the JAS had with the Blackpool Combat Club lasted way too long, and it literally ended way too late. That fucking feud should have ended months before December, before Final Battle. But honestly, what they were doing with this feud, adding Britt Baker into the mix and adding the Outcasts, it definitely intrigued me, and I'm definitely excited to see what they're going to be doing. Of course, this is definitely going to be leading to a match between Chris Jericho and Adam Cole at the Double or Nothing pay-per-view. I mean, why wouldn't it? It would make no sense. But Roderick Strong wrestling Chris Jericho, sign me the fuck up. This feud is definitely headed in the right direction. Renee Paquette is outside Tony Khan's office waiting to get a word from Miro. And then what happens? Thunder Rosa comes in, and she basically calls Tony Khan Poppy Khan, and she goes into Tony Khan's office. So what does this mean? Very, very, very interesting events that played out, not only with Miro, but also with Thunder Rosa. And it also has to play into the announcement that we are going to be getting next week, because if you guys don't know, Tony Khan, right after this, because they did air a Sammy Guevara video package, but we'll be talking about that after. Actually, no. There was a video package of Sammy Guevara. Let's pass that. Tony Khan then has a video package basically stating that, there are stars lined up to wrestle. It says that he will have a huge, and I mean this huge, he has a huge announcement on Dynamite next week. Now, does this announcement have to do with these wrestlers involved? I definitely do think so. And honestly, to be quite honest with you, I already know, I genuinely believe, and I think you all know as well, what the announcement is going to be. I mean, they got the Warner Brothers Discovery upfronts this coming Wednesday. And most likely they're going to be announcing AEW Collision. Now, the reports throughout these past couple of weeks have been saying, oh, there's going to be a hard brand split with AEW, and there's going to be a soft brand split with AEW. At this point, we do not know which one is which. Are they going to go full-fledged with the brand split, or are they going to go not full-fledged with the brand split? We're going to have to wait and see. But in my opinion, I think with the indication of Miro and Thunder Rosa going into Tony Khan's office, I feel like they're kind of setting the stage for the build as we head towards, I believe it's June 17th, for the first Collision show, which is rumored to be at the United Center. And it's rumored to be called The Second Coming, in which it showcases the return of CM Punk. Honestly, I like what they're doing here. They're basically showing, Miro hasn't been on television in months. Thunder Rosa has had an injury. We do not know if she's cleared yet, but they're definitely setting the stage for what is going to be Collision. And honestly, is this going to be a scenario in which they split the roster? We have absolutely no idea. But things are getting very, very, very interesting. And, Collision is definitely going to be their True B show. Now, the announcement. We, of course, know that they're going to be announcing AEW Collision next week. That's definitely the case. But another thing is, I believe we're going to be getting another announcement. And I do believe that one of those announcements is where will All In air? Because we all know AEW has sold a shit ton of tickets for Wembley Stadium at All In, and a lot of people are speculating because we know now that All Out is going to take place a week after All In. A lot of people are saying that All Out is going to be airing on the new Max streaming service, and I, for one, definitely agree with that because there's no fucking way that you're going to ask your fan base to pay $50 a pop in back-to-back weeks for 2 pay-per-views. You're basically asking them to pay $100 for both pay-per-views. I think that's absolutely ridiculous in my opinion, and I think it makes more sense with All In basically being a week before All Out, All In airing on HBO Max. It makes total sense as well. Not only that, when Tony Khan first announced All In with Nigel McGuinness and Adam Cole, he did state that this show was going to be celebrating 100 years of not only Wembley Stadium, but it was going to be celebrating 100 years of Warner Brothers as well. So that is definitely, I believe, one of the announcements. But shit's getting real in AEW, man. And, of course, we got the return of CM Punk, which at this point, it's not official, but we all know it's a done deal, and it's definitely going to be happening. So things are getting very, 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 very interesting in the realm of All Elite Wrestling. In our next match, we got Orange Cassidy versus Daniel Garcia for the International Championship. Overall thoughts on this match? Of course, Orange Cassidy has been defending the International Championship for how many? It's literally been like every week he's been defending that title. And they've been telling the story of, hey, man, Orange Cassidy has been getting exhausted recently with a lot of his matches, and he's been really, I don't want to say taking the easy way out, but he's gotten quick victories. He's gotten a lot of roll-up victories throughout his past couple of defenses, so they're definitely telling that story right over there. But the match that Orange Cassidy had with Daniel Garcia, this was definitely a great match, and it's safe to say, and I've constantly come on here on the Dynamite Review every week and stated this, the International Championship is, at this point, AEW's main mid-card championship. It's the TNT Championship at this point is fucking dead. But let's get through with the match. Cassidy goes for a side headlock. We get an arm drag by Cassidy. Then Garcia goes for the wrist lock, but then we get a drop toe hold countered by Cassidy, putting his hands in his pockets. After that, Cassidy goes for the drop kick. And after that, we get a second drop kick by Cassidy, but then Cassidy drives Garcia onto the turnbuckle. And then he grabs his injured hand, and then he twists it. Cassidy then goes for the suicide dive on Garcia, but then Cassidy takes him back into the ring, and then he drives him down to the top. Garcia then regains control, and then he sends Cassidy to the lower back in the corner. Once on the outside, Garcia drops Cassidy on the apron, and then he drives him back first to the top of the barricade. Once we're back from commercial break, Garcia is in control over Orange Cassidy, and then Cassidy goes for the back elbow, and then we get a knee by Cassidy, but then Garcia goes to the second rope. We get a bunch of body shots by Garcia, but then Cassidy fights back. Garcia then comes up to the top, and then he hits a superplex on Orange Cassidy. And then Cassidy immediately hits the stunt dog millionaire. After that, Cassidy goes for a DDT attempt, and then Garcia fires back with the dragon screw. At this point, both men exchange shots, and then we get repeated right hands by Cassidy. And then we get a kick by Garcia onto the kneecap of Cassidy. After that, he stomps on the injured hand of Cassidy, which has been a common occurrence throughout the entirety of the match. After that, he places the hands in his pockets. After that, Cassidy counters, Garcia with the beach break. And then we get a cover into near fall. Cassidy then runs into a dropkick on his knee by Garcia. After that, Garcia mocks Cassidy by doing his kicks. After that, Cassidy wants to put his hands in his pockets, but then Garcia goes for the boot. Garcia then goes for the pile driver, and then we get a cover into near fall. Cassidy then goes for the inside cradle. He goes for a near fall once again. He then hits a right hand, and then he hits the beach break, and then we get a cover once again to the near fall, but then Garcia applies the sharpshooter. After that, he applies the crossface, and then he stomps on the hand of Cassidy, but then Cassidy ends up going for a roll-up. Garcia fires back with a roll-up of his own, and then we get a roll-up once again by Cassidy, and Cassidy gets the 1-2-3 and ends up retaining the AEW International Championship. Overall thoughts on this match again. Great match overall. Of course, the story that they're telling with Orange Cassidy is that he's taking these quick victories, and it looks like he's starting to gas out of all these title defenses. And definitely, man, I've always said this for the past couple of weeks. I mean, Orange Cassidy has had that title for months now. I think it's time to start thinking, again, I've been saying this for months, but we really need to start thinking about somebody to take that title away from Orange Cassidy. I've been saying guys like Konosuke Takeshita or Rush could be perfect candidates for Orange Cassidy to drop that title to. I mean, those guys, especially Takeshita and Rush, in my opinion, those guys are just fucking fantastic wrestlers, and they would fit perfectly right now in the realm of the mid-card scene in AEW. Now, granted, Rush ain't no mid-carder, but with the way that the International Championship is treated right now, he'd fit perfectly for that championship, in my opinion. After that, we got the Christian Cage and Luchasaurus segment. More of a Christian Cage segment. This was a fucking awesome segment. Christian Cage is insane. Now, people on the internet make the worst comparisons possible. With Dominic Mysterio, everybody is comparing Dominic Mysterio to MJF, saying, oh my God, Dominic is the best heel in the business. They're only literally comparing Dominic and MJF just by the level of heat that each wrestler gets. Dominic clearly gets way more heat now than MJF does. That does not make him the better heel. I'm sorry. Literally, any wrestler that turns on their father, of course, is going to get that nuclear heat. Christian Cage, or I should say, Dominic Mysterio, ain't got shit. If there's a wrestler that you want to compare Dominic Mysterio to, it could be Christian Cage. But let's be real. Dominic Mysterio ain't got shit on Christian Cage. That is not to say Dominic is bad. Dominic ain't bad. He's doing fantastic work, in my opinion. I think the level of heat that he is getting is great. But don't compare, Dominic to MJF just because of the level of heat that they got. You do realize that it also depends on their in-ring work and their promo skills. And we all know MJF can literally smoke Dominic in this promo, in any promo segment. And the reason why I mention this is because this Christian Cage promo was fucking beautiful, man. I believe they were in Detroit. The crowd in Detroit were chanting Edge is better, the funniest shit ever, man. This man is a fucking menace, man. He will literally say the most fucked up shit and he will get a slew of boos. So Cage is welcomed to, of course, a shit ton of boos. He calls Detroit the worst city in the country. And why, Tony Schiavone? He is the number one contender for the TNT Championship. And it's simple. Because he is Christian Cage. It's because he has certain accomplishments, and when your name has the cash like he does, you get the shot. And here's a question for Tony Schiavone. What is up with all these wrestlers and their daddy issues? It's simple. Just like his previous opponent, his current opponent also had a father. But he's not going to go down that path because, let's face it, his father wasn't famous and he ain't going to waste his breath. It's a good thing because he found Arn Anderson. Lucky for him, Arn was looking for a new son himself. That's right. You may or may not know that his son is currently under contract with AEW. Of course, Arn is a liar because he wanted to send Brock. He wanted Brock to have that same success, and then he saw Wardlow. And then he throws Brock into the corner, and legends are other people's words. If there's another guy in a tag team with Tully or Ric Flair's lapdog, that makes you a legend. How many times he won a world title? None. He's a multiple-time world champion, and he understands what it takes. What are you going to do when you realize that you're not as smart, cutting, and we're never as good as him? Next week, he will stand in the ring and stare him in his eyes and spit in his face and tell him that his days as the TNT champion are numbered. And literally, I shit you not, the last line, and he came out kind of like, I don't want to say out of nowhere, but the way he said it was just the funniest shit ever. The last line was, "And Detroit, kiss my ass," and drops the microphone. I swear to God, bro, Christian Cage is funny as shit. I swear to God, he is funny as shit. This promo was fantastic as hell. I loved every bit of this promo. And honestly, look, is he going to win the TNT Championship? No, I don't see it. But again, man, if you want to talk about heel heat and promo ability, you got Christian Cage. And if there's any wrestler that you want to compare Dominic to, it sure as hell ain't going to be MJF. Let's be real. Compare him to Christian Cage. And with that, Christian Cage can smoke Dominic any day in the week. That is not to say that I hate Dominic or I think Dominic is bad. I think the work that Dominic is doing, he's drastically improving. I think him moving to Judgment Day was the best decision for his career, because when Vince McMahon was running things, he had absolutely no direction when it comes to Dominic. Now, clearly here, with Triple H mostly running the majority of the things, not really everything, there is some sort of direction with Dominic, and Dominic is definitely taking the ball and he's rolling with it. But again, Dominic ain't got shit on Christian Cage. I'm sorry. After that, we get a video package of Darby Allin. And then we get Julia Hart versus Anna Jay, basically in a Falls Count Anywhere / street fight, whatever you want to call it. This was not a bad match whatsoever. Julia Hart's entrance is great. Anna Jay, I'm not really the biggest Anna Jay guy. I think her joining the Jericho Appreciation Society was not really a good thing at all. I think a lot of the stuff that she's been doing with the JAS has been, to be quite honest with you, cringe. That is not to say I hate Anna Jay, because I like Anna Jay, but again, her with the JAS just does not fit at all. It just really doesn't. But then again, let's go through the match. Anna grabs the trash can. Julia sends Anna to the barricade, and then Julia uses the kendo stick. Later, Anna Jay hits a suplex on the outside. Both lead into the timekeeper's area. Once we're back from break, Julia Hart takes out multiple chairs. Anna has Julia up from behind and drops her on the pile of chairs after that. Once we're back in the ring, Anna hits Julia with the chair, and then she hits a spinning heel kick on the trash can. After that, we get a cover and near fall. Anna Jay then brings the chairs in the ring. We get a right hand by Julia Hart, and then we get an elbow by Anna Jay. And then we get a superplex by Julia Hart. And then after that, she applies a submission, and Anna Jay taps out, and Julia Hart gets the win. After that, Best Friends and Bandido are in a backstage interview. They talk about how they are feeling it, and they call themselves the Best Amigos. And they talk about how they're going to win the big one, that being the Trios titles. And, of course, it's an open house match. And basically, the rules that they choose for this open house match is all witches are barred from ringside. So we then get the House of Black versus Best Friends and Bandido for the Trios titles in an open house match, open house rules. And basically, the entirety of the arena is kind of like dimmed. It shows the graphics on like the LED screens of the House of Black. All those that black screen with the white particles. The lights are dimmed. I loved the visual of this. It's something different. And honestly, it gives some sort of direction with the House of Black, because I was getting a little bit afraid, ever since the House of Black won the Trios titles, honestly, we didn't really know what they were going to be doing. All they were doing was just defending their titles, but now there's some sort of direction when it comes to the House of Black, and I absolutely love it. Overall thoughts on this match. This is a very good match. The lights are dimmed, of course. Malachi and Bandido start. We get an arm drag by Bandido, but then Bandido goes for the Hurricane Rana. We get a kick by Bandido, and then he runs into a kick by Malachi Black. At this point, Black is in control, and then we get a back elbow by Bandido. After that, Malachi goes for the knee, but then he works onto the knee of Bandido. Bandido then makes it to the ropes, but then there are no breaks. Then we get a knee by Bandido, but then Chuck Taylor makes the tag. After that, we get a triple team by the Best Amigos on Malachi Black. After that, Brody King goes for the blind tag, and then we get a senton by Brody on Trent Beretta. After that, once we're back from break, Bandido goes to the top, but then lands into a knee by Buddy Matthews. At this point, Chuck is the legal man. Brody then tags in. We get a knee by Buddy, and then they end up hitting, or I should say Brody ends up hitting, the Dante's Inferno. After that, we got a cover, and the House of Black retain the AEW World Trios Championships. Good match overall. After that, Kyle Fletcher, one half of Aussie Open, attacks Orange Cassidy on the outside, and it looks like he is going to be targeting the International Championship. Great. Aussie Open, I believe, has been a staple on Ring of Honor TV. I have been watching Ring of Honor recently, honestly. I just haven't. I really am not really giving a lot two shits about what's going on in Ring of Honor, but I believe Aussie Open is still there. After that, we get a video package of Jungle Boy, which then leads us to the Jon Moxley versus Kenny Omega steel cage match. Now, this match is, when they first announced this match, everybody was excited, including myself, because let's be honest with ourselves, Kenny Omega versus Jon Moxley is one of the best feuds in AEW's history. It was literally the first major feud in AEW's history, let's be honest with ourselves. And the fact that they ran it back inside of a steel cage made it that times, like, it just made it so much better. The last time they wrestled was back at Revolution 2 years ago in the exploding barbed wire death match, and we all know how that turned out. Everybody literally remembers that match for just the ending, and that is it. I know that's the harsh reality, but it's the truth. The only thing that everybody remembers from that match is the ending, where basically, you know, the explosions didn't really explode. It was just sparklers, kind of like it was the 4th of July. But overall, man, this cage match was fucking brutal, man. You knew Jon Moxley was going to bleed. I know a lot of people were upset about that. And look, I get the criticism of Jon Moxley bleeding in every one of his matches. But, I mean, this is a steel cage match, so it's pretty obvious that Jon Moxley is going to be bleeding anyway. Kenny Omega looked great. A lot of moments happened. The way the match was booked and was formatted, definitely great as well. It flowed really well. The atmosphere in the crowd was great. And the ending was absolutely fucking insane. But without further ado, let's get through with the match. So both men brawl on the outside. And then the Blackpool Combat Club come in and attack Kenny Omega. And this is before the bell even rings. The Elite then come in, and then they super kick Claudio, and then they super kick Yuta. After that, Yuta gets thrown off the stage, and then they look at Danielson, and then Claudio takes out the Bucks with a series of uppercuts. After that, Matt Jackson gets thrown to the ramp, and then he threatens Bryan Danielson, who is on commentary, but then Nick Jackson dives off the stage. Kenny makes it to the cage, and the match begins. After that, both men fight it out. We get a chop by Kenny and then by Mox. At this point, both exchange shots. We get repeated right hands by Kenny Omega. We get a boot by Kenny. Kenny then picks up Moxley. And then he hits the You Can't Escape moonsault. After that, we get a cover into near fall, but then Moxley takes out a barbed wire chair. Ain't surprising, knowing Jon Moxley. We get a kick by Mox, but then Kenny throws the chair to Mox. Omega then looks like he cut his hand, and then he hits the chair onto the back of Mox, which is fucking brutal. After that, he places it onto the back of Mox, and then he goes for the double stomp. Ouch. After that, Kenny then drives the head of Moxley onto the turnbuckle. Jesus Christ. And then Moxley regains control, and at this point, he's busted open. And then what happens is he kisses the camera, which is hilarious. After that, we get a roundhouse kick by Kenny, and then we get a springboard by Kenny, but then he counters, Moxley counters, driving Omega onto the cage. After that, Kenny goes for the barbed wire chair, and then he hits the drop kick. After that, Omega goes for the bulldog or the Couture Crusher. After that, we get a slam by Omega on Mox onto the barbed wire chair. Omega then goes to the top, and then we get a right hand by Mox, but then Mox hits the superplex on Omega onto the barbed wire chair. After that, once we go to commercial break, Mox during the break removes the turnbuckle and the ropes. And once we're back from break, he drives the steel turnbuckle onto the mouth of Kenny Omega. Holy shit. After that, Omega, he hits Omega with the turnbuckle, and then he wraps the cable around the throat of Omega. After that, Omega targets the eyes of Moxley. Mox ends up going for the drop toe hold, but then Moxley applies the bulldog choke. After that, he continues to choke Omega, but then Omega fights back. We then get a knee by Moxley, but then Mox takes out, it looks like it was a bag. You immediately thought it was going to be thumbtacks, but Moxley was like, fuck no, I've done thumbtacks all my life. We're going to take it back to full gear back in 2019, and we're going to fucking use glass again. And that is exactly what Moxley did. So he takes out the glass. We get a bunch of chops by Omega. Omega then drives Mox on his knee, and then we get a knee by Omega, but then Omega manages to pick up Mox. Mox then applies the sleeper, and then he drops. What happens is Omega ends up dropping Mox onto the glass. In-fucking-sane. Then Moxley applies the choke, and then Omega has the shoulders down, and then we get a near fall. Moxley then attempts to go for the pile driver, but then Omega rolls through. We get a knee by Omega, followed by a series of slap. Moxley fights back, but then both men slap each other. He tries to go for the Snapdragon, follow up with the knee, and then he goes for the second knee, and then he tries to go for the Snapdragon, and then he ends up doing the Snapdragon on the glass. At this point, Moxley's on the apron, and then Mox gets hit with the V-trigger, which breaks the cage. Now, I do not know if that was planned or, a botch, but if you really think about it, that spot was scary as hell, because when Omega hit the V-trigger, Moxley literally went upside down, literally hanging from the apron, using his legs, and Omega literally got stuck in the portion that was still there on the cage, and it looked like he got injured for a second, and I was definitely afraid for Kenny Omega's safety, but thankfully Omega's fine. So after that, doctors check onto the knee of Kenny Omega, but then Mox takes Omega back into the ring. Mox then has the screwdriver, the staple of basically this whole feud. But then what happens? The Snake himself, Don Callis, comes in, and he takes the screwdriver away from Mox, and then Omega tries to take out Mox from behind. Omega ends up going for the V-trigger. He picks up Moxley and ends up hitting the one-winged angel, and we get a cover, and Don Callis hits Kenny Omega with the screwdriver, which leads to Moxley to sweep in, get the cover. 1, 2, 3. Jon Moxley defeats Kenny Omega. That was a fantastic steel cage match. Overall, everything about this cage match was brutal as fuck. Moxley, of course, went berserk. Kenny Omega looked great as well. That spot, man, where Omega hit the V-trigger and both men went through the cage, that was a very scary situation, honestly. Very, very, very scary situation, but thankfully both men are all right. But nonetheless, the match was absolutely fantastic. Now, what's interesting is, of course, the Don Callis turning, because we all know now Don Callis turned on Kenny Omega. Now, when it comes to that, where is Don Callis going to align himself in? A lot of people are saying it's going to be the Blackpool Combat Club, but is it really going to be the Blackpool Combat Club? We have absolutely no idea. What role does Konosuke Takeshita play in this? Because he was a major role 2 weeks ago on the end of Dynamite. What role is going to be Konosuke Takeshita? I mean, we've been seeing stuff of Don Callis literally kind of in the ear of Konosuke Takeshita. They've aired video packages of that. Not only that, at the Bola tournament in the Battle of Los Angeles in PWG, they apparently filmed something with Don Callis and Konosuke Takeshita. Stuff like that, man. What are they going to be doing with Takeshita, man? I genuinely believe that Konosuke Takeshita is definitely going to be turning heel. Another thing is, where does this all lead to? Because we all know we're headed towards Double or Nothing, and honestly, it's going to be leading towards a Anarchy in the Arena match, and then after, it's going to lead to a Blood and Guts match. But again, the Elite are outnumbered. Honestly, who could be that extra participant for the Elite? It's pretty simple. It starts with an A, it starts with a K, and it ends with an I. Kota Ibushi. Kota Ibushi. At this point, we clearly know Kota Ibushi is going to come to the aid of Kenny Omega, and you know what? I'm 100% for that, because if you guys never seen Kota Ibushi wrestle, you guys are in for a treat. But imagine Kota Ibushi at Anarchy in the Arena, or imagine Kota Ibushi inside a Blood and Guts match. That'd be fucking awesome, and we're going to get a Golden Lovers reunion. But nonetheless, this was a very, very, very good match. Intense shocker. I don't want to say I'm shocked, because we all knew this was coming, but definitely the moment was there, and it was definitely great to see. Now we're just going to have to wait and see what they do in the future. But yeah, that was everything that went on with AEW Dynamite. Overall thoughts on this show. This was a great show nonetheless. A lot of great stuff happened on this show. Nothing really special, but that steel cage match definitely stole the show in my opinion. But yeah, overall, I thought AEW Dynamite this week was a pretty good show, man. It definitely felt like a legit pay-per-view card as Tony Khan was promoting it. But, yeah, that was my thoughts on AEW Dynamite. Please like, subscribe, comment down below. Push that bell for notifications and be on the lookout for more videos right here on the WrestleHavoc Podcast, in which we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content. And, as the freaking referee would say, ring, ring, ring that damn bell for more notifications. And as always, it is Flamin' Ricky DeRays, signing out. See you guys later.